It is April 12, 2026, 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Here we are, another opinion piece. Everything I'm about to say is all for entertainment purposes only. Confirm all the info on your own. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, the negotiations between Iran and US have come to an end. And there was no deal. After 28 hours of discussion, nothing. I mean, we called it, right? Knew it was gonna happen. The Iranian Foreign Minister, Sayyid Abbas Araghchi, he says that we are disappointed with how the US behaved. And why was he disappointed? His own words, Netanyahu's call to Vance during the meeting shifted the focus from the US-Iranian negotiations to Israel's interests. The US tried to achieve at the negotiating table what it could not achieve through war. We came here with good faith. The press conference by Vance before he left Pakistan was unnecessary. We are committed and prepared to safeguard our nation's interest and sovereignty. It got so intense in there, okay? Because even there's a rumor that the foreign minister of Iran, Sayyid Abbas, and Witkoff they came to blows with how intense it got. You guys, the whole thing, right? You need to understand something. This negotiations was politics. I said that yesterday. I've been saying this. Politics. They just did it for formality's sake. Israel is still the one that's pulling the strings. They're not being sincere. And because of it, is. Okay, the is not sincere. They're on a mission. They need land. They need to expand. They need to, Iran. That's at least what they're thinking. And it's not going to happen. They haven't done it through military. And they're not doing it through negotiations. So, and then, you have the high military wing of that's like, dude, we're stretched thin, man. Like this is no good. So ultimately, if that's all happening, it's gonna be the US that's gonna come to their again, right? Do all that. It's gonna come to their aid, their protection, as usual. And us taxpayers are gonna have to pay for this nonsense. But it's 100% because of They are on, and I talked about this. Is on their own game plan. Okay, they don't care about the world. They don't care about anybody. They only care about themselves, genuinely. And everybody else is like, dude, let's try to work something out, which is insane. So you got to understand, right? The largest issue regarding the negotiations is really the Strait of Hormuz for America. America wants to co-own it with Iran, and Iran is like, "Beh, are you dumb?" Trump is like, I'll run it with Iran 50-50. And Iran is like, bro, we don't need you. Like, we won this. Like, we've been fighting. And you haven't been able to get anything, even nothing. You haven't gotten our uranium. We still have shit tons of weapons. Like, let's run it. So basically, and the US Trump is like, we won. But clearly, the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Iran is now tightening their negotiations with the US as more time passes, right? They're just like, dude, you're just here wasting our time. We've now tried multiple times and it's not worked out. We understand that you are not going to think for your people. We understand that you are only going to think for is. And in the process, it is isolating the US. Okay, I'll get into that in a second. But, you got to realize, right? Iran is over here negotiating with the US, okay? Which the US has put them in really hard sanctions for over 40 years. And the idea was to just bury Iran alive. But Iran didn't get buried. They thrived, even under really harsh conditions, circumstances. So now with Iran in kind of the driver's seat, okay, with the upper hand, how do you think those negotiations will happen, right? But I'll give you a tip. Cue the Circle of Life song from The Lion King. It's crazy. What goes around comes around, right? I mean, life is funny. But, we're talking about the US isolating itself. The Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, he stood up to IS and opened an embassy in Iran, in Tehran. And he went to China today. And he went to China after Trump announced that he's going to cut off all trade with Spain for refusing to support IS, okay? The Prime Minister, I believe it is, from Sweden. He says that IS needs to be isolated for spreading, and his words, for spreading so much evil and destruction or something like that around the world. His words, not mine. Trump is now even threatening NATO again. He's saying, I'm gonna leave NATO because nobody's coming to his defense. Nobody's fighting his fight. And he's like, damn, dude, I'm like draining my resources. I'm using my people, but now it's double. I'm losing my people, like from military and also my base, you know, my voters, my supporters. Finally, some of his moronic supporters are catching on, you know, but Trump sees all this. And he's like, dude, I'm losing. I need help. And nobody in the world wants to help because they realize this isn't about the US. This isn't about, you know, the justice, and it's not about human rights. It's not about that. You know, it's not about any of that. Like, how can you justify human rights when you're taking out, you're committing war crimes, basically, right? Everyone's like, dude, there's just, we're not a part of this. And plus, we see what the hell Iran is doing, and we're just like, nah, man, you know, we're good. You know, you go fight that on your own. You know, I'm just gonna chill over here in my lazy boy recline. But just remember what I said. If the US does leave NATO, just understand that Turkey is going to jump in. Mark my words. Nobody is really talking about that. But I do believe Turkey is going to jump in. They're going to start pushing, going into Syria. And I do believe that how the US and is imagine the Middle East to be carved out and everything and like separated, honestly, I think that's going to happen. But it's not going to go to US and is. It's going to go to the BRICS countries, you know, the BRICS nations. And additionally, it's also going to go to some NATO members like Turkey, right, that are north, that are in the region. More and more countries are seeing Trump as a total fool. They understand that his value is significantly what is perceived. Now, what does that mean? His perceived value is the media, you know, the flashy things and all of that. It makes people look at him like, wow, this guy is amazing, right? This guy's like a king. But that is perceived value. Deep down inside, everyone kind of sees his strategic planning, his military. I mean, the guy, honestly, instead of talking about real issues and strategy and things like that, you see it, right? What is he talking about? He's talking about news reporters, right? He's talking about immigrants. He just shared a video on the official White House page, which was disgusting. But, you know, it was wrong even for the victims. But he showed a video of like an immigrant attacking during all of this that's going on. Like he's literally saying, hey, we're gonna nuke people. But then bam, like he goes back to his whole thing of like fear mongering. And that's always been his campaign. It's nothing of substance, you know, it's nothing of value. There's nothing that you could say like, dude, yeah, this is gonna change us. Everything is like immigrants bad, MAGA good. You know, I speak my mind, you know, I'm like a frat guy. And that's it. He's gotten this far by that way. And his base is eating it up like, wow, you know, I love that this guy cusses as a president. And it's this moronic thinking, this really elementary thinking that unfortunately is making places like Iran just run circles around us. You guys, even like our healthcare, right? Look at, like, as an example, look at Obamacare. Like he came in and he was like, screw this, it's bad. And he didn't produce like anything else in its place. You know, you look at the nuke agreement, you know, that Obama had. Literally, Trump came in and he ripped it up and he was like, fuck this. And we're back to square one, like before Obama made that deal. So all of these things, it's like he comes in and, you know, I'm this and I'm that. But really, the guy has no like tangible deals. But anyways, people are catching on, thank God. Even his base, thank God. As slow as they may be, but they're coming around. But you guys, I will catch you later. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.